All right. Hey, welcome everybody to the Learn With Lowell show. I'm Lowell. Obviously, we interview scientists, experts, leaders from around the world. And today, we literally have someone from a different place than where I am. I'm in the Midwest right now, and she's in the Middle East. I think you're in Dubai, and I'm joined with Sara Merhi.
Elizabeth.
And I've been told that the way I pronounce the last name is not correct. So, Sara, if you could just correct the way I say your last name, and then we'll go into things.
All right, hello everyone. I am actually based in Dubai, and the way that I say my name is Sara Merhi.
That's so cool. Yeah.
It's a bit heavy. It's a bit heavy at Merhi, but that's how I say my name. Yeah.
Yeah, the closest I could get was Merhi, and it's so bad. My Midwestern mouth is terrible. So Sara was really nice to not make fun of me too much. What are you? What's a bit of your background for people who don't know you?
All right. So I have a bachelor's in nutrition and dietetics. And currently, so I graduated nutrition and dietetics. I had that medical exposure in hospitals dealing with different patients, diabetes, obesity, people coming out of surgical floors. So this is kind of very medical section of nutrition and dietetics. And then this is when afterwards I joined a consultancy where we work for FMCG companies, typically food and beverage industry. And this is where we kind of advise them on portfolio innovation and transformation, but also regulation. And then there's food sustainability to that, which comes down to plant-based, alternative meats. Currently, alternative proteins as cell cultured is not found in the Middle East. So we're now focusing on plant-based and what is actually working in the market and what is missing in the market. So this is a bit of a background. But also, I am currently actually on the UN Youth Board for ProVeg International. So basically, ProVeg International is an international organization that pushes plant-based diets onto the climate agenda. And apart from that, I'm also a future sustainability leader at Masdar, which is the Abu Dhabi's future energy company, where this is basically upskilling, STEM skills, getting networking, connecting with policymakers, challenging the status quo so that actually we can see change happening.
Yeah.
So this is a bit of my background, a whole
Yeah.
rounded kind of background. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds very impressive. Is is the Middle East a net importer of food? So like having a more of a plant based that you could make locally would be a good thing, or do you guys are you? I think you're a net importer in terms of food.
Yeah, most of the food, yes, we we import. There aren't a lot of local companies that have ventured into plant-based. The market is not saturated. It's still at its infancy. So it's not like typically what you see in the US where you already have, cultivated meats getting pushed into the up to the FDA for approval. So we're still at the infancy stage, checking what is working in the market, what are consumers demanding, what really resonates with consumers. So this is basically the scene right now. It's still very, I would say, not old food system style because they are reformulating, they are fortifying the food. It's kind of getting into a more healthier food system, but plant-based is not there yet.
Is there any like cultural pushback for plant based or anything like that? Like in terms of like what people like to eat in the Middle East? I've not been to the Middle East. I only know it on a map.
Yeah, so in the Middle East, culture and tradition is so closely related to food. And most of our food consumption is typically meat, lamb, and then you have chicken. But there's different types of the Middle East region. So I'm Lebanese, and the Mediterranean diet. I'm sure you've heard of the Mediterranean
Yeah.
diet. It's one of the healthiest diets. So we have legumes, we have good fats, we have fruits and vegetables, and a little bit of meat intake. But then you go into other areas of the Middle East. Like each culture has its own kinds of cuisine, but it's highlighted by meat consumption a lot, like a very high intake of meat consumption. And so you want to shift a consumer that has been eating meat that is so closely tied to his or her religion and culture and tradition. and they've been eating this way since forever. How do
Mhm.
you go about that? This is like the key question. How do you go about that? How do you tell someone this is a plant-based patty? But patties are not in our cuisine. Patties are more Western. For us, it's more
Mhm.
kebab. It's more of like barbecue. So you need to put that essence. You need to put that on plant-based for them to really even think of, oh, okay, I want to try that one. It's close to what I actually eat.
Yeah, I don't think there's any plant kebabs coming out. It's all like burger type thing, I think. There's like some fish type stuff coming out as well. But I don't think anyone's working on, I mean, like in the sense of like being close to people being able to taste and see the difference.
I mean, I know about there's one company here actually that's
Hmm.
working on that has come out with kebabs and barbecue that's plant-based, but that's about it. It's just one company. So you can see how unsaturated the market is. I mean, there's not really that big of a demand for it.
Yeah. Is have you been a part of like the testing when you so like there's an Impossible Burger in the U.S. and I think you can get them at Burger King and at the store, and it's a plant-based burger. And I had a normal burger next to it and the plant-based one, and I had a couple of my friends with me, and they're carnivores. Like they have like a carnivore of the 50s. Like if they could go to a diner every Sunday and have a burger with fries, they'd be the most satisfied people in the world. I cut it into like little thirds or whatever, and they all took a bite of each. And when they took a bite of the plant burger, there's like their faces lit up, and they're like, "This tastes like a burger." It's like kind of the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if anyone's done stuff like that with the kebabs, where a lot of it's the texture and like how you make it as well, like to that makes it what it is. But I'm curious, has anyone done something like that for kebabs with people who are into that?
So personally, I've never been to a taste test.
Yeah,
I'm not really involved on the taste testing side or like
yeah,
the production of the food side. I'm more of like the nutritional
mm,
content, the value. Is it nutritious? Does it have health benefits? Because again, my background is in dietetics, right? But I actually, since you mentioned Impossible foods, so I actually tried Impossible Burger for the first time, I believe last week.
mm,
Imagine.
yeah.
They came into the market in UAE, I believe in 2021, but I haven't had the chance. I haven't had the chance to even come upon Impossible Burger, but I've had that last week, and it was amazing. It
Yeah.
was amazing. Honestly, kudos. Like that burger was so good. But apart from that, I'm not really involved in taste testing. I would love to. I would love to be involved in the taste testing of plant-based opposed to, actual meat. But I've seen a lot of not blindfolded testing, but when the consumer doesn't know
Hmm.
what they're having, and then you tell them, oh, it's actually plant-based, and they go like, what? It is
Yeah.
plant-based. I love that. That's actually so good. So I would love to be part of that, or at least, maybe conduct such a focus group. It would be interesting to see how consumers here in the region react to that. But I haven't had the chance to do that yet, unfortunately.
I think Alan of Cell, California. I am terrible at people's organizations. He's making plant-based. He's making Cell Egg chocolate and Cell Egg coffee. And I think in the next couple of months, he's going to be like looking for people to send kits to, so they can do taste tests of like. So
Okay.
like Alan, maybe you guys can connect and you can test out some Cell Egg derived chocolate, so you don't have like the downstream effects of like slave labor and stuff. Like it's pretty cool. But I
Oh,
like the idea, like
wow.
more people like sending these kits out for people to experiment and tell people how they
Yeah.
think.
But do they send them overseas, or do they just,
I don't know.
or,
He offered. I'm like kind of like maybe speaking out of the corner of my mouth in the sense of like I know he's looking for people. I don't know if he's looking for all across the world. I know he
global?
was happy with the
Mm-hmm.
Midwest. He was happy. Just
He
I
was
think he was
happy
open
in the
from like the
Midwest.
California to the Midwest. I don't know if it was Alan. If you're listening, if you could just like type in the comments what you're actually willing to do, and if I've spoken out of turn, please yell at me. I apologize. But yeah, I think that because people get to see it more, especially with like all the new ways people engage with social media. Do you do any of the social media, like getting people excited for it, like making that type of content, or is it more like the policy making the conditions so that plant based can happen?
It's so when you talking about social media, do you mean as part of my job, or do you mean me on my own?
Uh, job, then you on your own. Now I'm curious what you do in your free time.
Okay, no, so I'm pretty sure it's in my LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is mostly just disseminating scientific,
Mm,
you know, research, sharing most recent advancements. I don't typically do any of the content creation that is
mm,
for, I would say, I don't want to say I don't want to say consumer friendly. My LinkedIn is not very consumer friendly. It still requires someone to have a bit of knowledge on what I'm talking about to actually understand. Okay, GHG emissions coming from food. Someone who doesn't know about that will not really understand that. So
yeah.
for me, it's more of like I would say scientific communication on my own. Um, but when it comes to like my job and my work, it's more about policies and regulations, scoping what is happening globally and in US, in Europe, seeing how that would translate, what are the essential implications on our region, right? Because it's like I would say like not a cycle, but it's like it follows, it follows
Yeah.
whatever's happening in US and Europe, kind of it will have its implications on the region. And then you see how, if you want to mitigate that or actually join that, be a part of that. But for content creation, I'm not really
Yeah.
that deep into content creation yet. I do enjoy content creation. Sometimes I go on Canva, try to create something. It is enjoyable to me. It's just it takes a lot of time. Content creation takes a lot of time.
Hmm.
And I currently don't have that. But who knows? Maybe at some point I will start producing
Yeah.
content for consumers.
Yeah, I think technically this interview counts. So like you got some of
Yeah,
that going right now. I
yeah.
think for the U.S., I know how this affects the U.S. I'm curious how it affects the Middle East. So like what's going on in Ukraine with Belarus and Russia, it's about like 20 to 30% of like phosphorus and potassium exports, and then you have all like the grain and stuff that's going down. And that's like to the U.S. like how it's going to affect, like we're having like 20% less phosphorus and potassium, which then affects like food, which means like how much we can export. How do you see that? What are the UAE needs, and are they being affected? I mean, since they're a net importer, I imagine they're going to be affected a little bit more than the U.S., which is a net exporter of food.
Um. All right. I would say honestly, the UAE is really upping up its game in terms of local production. I
Mm,
mean, even when it comes to fresh produce, it has been doing amazing. There's so many companies, local companies here that are producing fresh produce like in non-arable land, and it's amazing. It's amazing to see five in a 5 year span. It just shot up. And so I would say, yes, imports are being affected, but there is infrastructure. There is a lot of development happening that is kind of counterbalancing that. And not, I don't want to say counterbalancing that. I feel like that's a bit strong. There's still some effect. There is effect on importing, but we are still able to have fresh produce. We're still able to have food in the groceries. All the time whenever we need it. Whatever product that you want, you're always going to be able to find it. And even when you go back to COVID, I mean, so many countries during COVID where the food system was, their imports were hit badly during COVID. But for us, we were still able to find everything in our grocery stores. So when it comes to UAE, I feel like they have a very strong, again, infrastructure, logistics. They have strong, I would say, developments that are pushing it on top of that food security agenda, on top
hmm.
of the food security index. Even it's been ranked one of the top in the Middle East.
Hmm.
So for us, there are implications for the crisis, but it's the most way that I would say that it is affecting consumers is by prices. Prices
Yeah.
are going to increase, but everything is still available. But again, the most way that we're being affected is through pricing.
Hmm. Um, is there are there foods that you're looking to see introduced to the region that you're really excited about? So like kebab is probably one that you want to see built up as like a food source that people can enjoy. Are there other key areas that are either in development or are like through the policies and stuff that you're advocating for you see going to be coming up pretty soon?
Um, so I don't even feel like plant-based is gonna come
Hmm.
up. There are recent ventures into plant-based, but from that side of food production, when it comes to plant-based or novel food, we lack there is a lack of research, there is a lack of development. And recently, there has been an increased awareness and increased action to kind of speed up the pace at which we can introduce plant-based at a much bigger scale, not just one, two, three, four companies. No,
Hmm.
to introduce it, to have consumers demand it. But again, it's gonna take time, but it will happen. This is one thing that I feel like is gonna be that will be introduced. And I mean, it's already there, but I would say that the local companies here will look further into putting plant based on in their portfolio because
Yeah.
currently not all local companies have that, right? But apart from that, I would say um, other foods they're pretty much available here.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think it's just
but
go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. It's okay. You can go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say like one trend that I've been seeing, and it's just specifically isolating down on like the where you get your food, whether it's plant based meat, etc., is that the stuff that's going on in Ukraine seems to be really be pushing people to be more mindful of like where their meals come from, and so it seems like a real opportunity to have plant based. I have heard like celiac is like a little bit too like not advanced, but like just like it's not like been proven out, so it's not like a method that is going to be like copy and pasted to some extent and then like tweaked to
Mhm.
like fit the culture of the region. It seems like they're going to go for more of a plant-based, maybe like vertical farming to like have the ability to uh, uh, be less of a net importer for lack of a better word. So it seems like there's a real opportunity that people are realizing like, hey, if we can like and it has like such massive implications for climate change and like climate as well. Because if you don't have to have like 12 different, tankers of materials brought from all around the world to one spot, and you can bring it, like build it in your backyard, that in and of itself is going to drastically improve emissions. Because I think like transport, like freight, not freight, the things on the water, the boats, like they're huge in
Mhm.
terms of emissions.
They are, yeah, yeah. But still, production emits more than transportation.
Hmm.
When you look at this, the research, what research says, production does emit more than transportation. Nonetheless, if we can stop the transportation, if each country can be food secure on its own, then that will reduce emissions by a great amount. But nonetheless, will every single country be food secure on its own? I mean, is that really possible?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you could. I think you get like with the right investments, but then it's like, what else are you investing? If the like, there's finite resources, so if you're investing in complete food security, then you're not investing in other things. But that's I guess the nice thing about the Middle East is that there's like all that oil money that people from the outside perspective, it looks like there's a different like they're trying to like diversify the opportunity, which is good, which means more innovation, more things that are going to be
Yes.
going that way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely more innovation. Innovation is skyrocketing. I mean, we already saw vertical farming here. It's taking over. It's taking over. Vertical farming here is taking over. And it's just a matter of time for other innovations to kick in.
Hmm.
But again, I feel with everything, you need the whole ecosystem of stakeholders for it to really skyrocket. For even consumers to start hearing about it, just hearing about it, seeing it, you need the whole ecosystem to be on board.
Is there an element of what you're working on? It doesn't have to be related to making that element happen, but is there something you got going on right now that you're really excited about in particular that you're working on?
Uh, well, right now, um, I would say it would be more of like increasing consumer awareness
Hmm.
on healthy diets from sustainable food systems. So this is something that is essential. It's supposed to be the foundation for every consumer, and then you build upon that. You build on healthy diets from sustainable food systems, and then you introduce plant-based, and you introduce all of those other innovations for consumers to accept that. Because consumers right now, they're starting to look at ingredients, they're starting to look at everything, the nutrition facts, whatever is in the product. And sometimes they're scared to enjoy, like to consume something if it's highly processed, because they directly link, oh, this is processed, it's from the lab, it's so bad for me. I'm not gonna have that. But then that's why it's so essential to raise awareness. So this is something I'm very excited about. But again, it has to be the whole ecosystem of stakeholders on board to really have that strong influence. You cannot just raise awareness for, I don't know, XYZ couple of months and then just call it a day. No, it has to be something that's ongoing until you can actually factually see, for example, what's happening in the supermarket. Are consumers buying more? And once you see that translates into higher purchase, higher demand, then you know, yes, my awareness strategy is actually working.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that...
Oh, go ahead. I think we had a delay.
Yeah. So this is something that I'm very excited about. I mean, I don't believe I can share too much about it, but it is something that is I personally love nutrition community interventions and activations, and just bringing everyone on board, being on the ground, just being active with the community to make them understand, to make them make it resonate with them, make them actually believe in this plant-based product, or in this, why you should eat this and not that. And once you actually get to that point, it's just pure bliss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing I like to do is I don't know what the education system for kids in the Middle East is called, but in the US it's called like K through 12. I think in the UK, for instance, I think it's like primary or something, primary, secondary. There's so many different words for these things, but basically like from like the ages of like, I don't know, 5 to 18, like the education system, I like to look at like what they feed the kids and like what their meals are for the day. The US has like the most disgusting stuff in the world. I feel so bad. Oh, it's horrible. But anyways, is there a push to impact that level of it? Because if you get people early enough, like seeing the difference of like plant-based items in, or just healthy-based items there as well. Like I think that the best meal plan that I've seen for kids, like as they're developing, is gotta be Italy's. They have like fresh grapes. They're grown locally in Italy. It's like it looks like something I would pay money for. It's like so good. Yeah. So how is that being impacted?
So there's definitely been a lot of improvements in the school diet. Let me tell you, I was born and raised here. Back when I was in school, I used to have a hot dog, some French fries, some basically junk food. And then with time, I started to see those get removed from the school cafeteria. I stopped seeing fries. I stopped seeing hot dogs. But there's definitely, from that time until now, I see there's so much more being implemented for kids to nourish kids, but to also to educate the parents, because you cannot just have a healthy, I would say, school environment and somewhat unhealthy food environment at home.
Yeah.
It has to be on both ends, because parents play a huge role in the healthy lifestyle. And when a kid sees their parents having a healthy lifestyle, eating healthy food, they're more likely to continue on that route, as opposed to just being at the school, right? So definitely, there are programs, there are campaigns. There's even retailers joining with, we're collaborating with schools from like farm to fork, where they get chefs and they just teach kids about, healthy eating, healthy food, what consists of healthy diet, what consists a healthy diet, and there's different like modules. But of course, it's not something that is in every single school.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to be mandated. I feel it has to be mandated so that every single school, private and public, has it. But so far it's not mandated. But I can tell you that yes, there are programs, there are even modules for kids to learn about healthy diet. And there's even recently there has been launched a podcast for parents to educate parents about healthy food environments at home and how to actually influence their child into eating more healthily through them. So definitely, there has been improvements. I mean, it needs to happen. The rate of obesity, childhood obesity, is high. Like in this region, the rate of childhood overweightness and obesity is high. So this has to happen. It really has to happen. And I'm glad that it's starting to, I would say, drastically improve. There's always room for improvement. There's always room to do more. But I'm happy for what is happening now. And I hope that it gets mandated for across all schools.
Does the when we're speaking, should I just focus down on Dubai or is it UAE that I should be focusing on in terms of like the questions I ask? Like, is it that are you like a part of the UAE and Dubai, or I don't know, are those synonymous terms?
You can just use the UAE. I mean, there
Okay.
are different programs in UAE. There is different programs in every emirate, I would say, but nonetheless, the nutrition strategy, the national nutrition strategy, the food security strategy, it applies to all emirates.
Okay, sweet.
They're all one
that makes it
country,
easier then.
right? Yeah.
What so in the US we have, I think it's like 1 in 4 kids suffer from malnourishment of some kind, and malnourishment for kids like affects like I think up to 20 points of their IQ just for their that does not come back. What are the obesity is a problem in the UAE. What are the like malnourishment? How big of a deal is that over there? Well, I guess where you're at.
That is actually a good question, and I don't have the factual numbers. So I need to give it to you. But there's definitely, I can tell you, there's definitely malnourishment. Look, our current food system, the food industry, they built the food system to favor calories over nutrients, right? So you have kids having snacks that are high in calories, low in good nutrients. So what they're gonna get is with time, if they continue eating this way, they're gonna be overweight, and then they're gonna be malnourished at the same time. So definitely, when I tell you that the rate of obesity and overweightness when it comes to children is high, then definitely there is malnourishment there. Because the food system right now, it prefers calories over nutrients and micronutrients. But the actual number, like 1 in 4, 1 in 3, that I right now, honestly, I don't have that.
No worries. I appreciate the honesty. It's better to just say like, hey, I don't know this, and maybe someone can like, someone in the comments like, give the details. That's great.
Yeah, definitely.
What is an average household? What is an average household? Just if you could typify it to some extent, what are they eating now? If we can assume, like, let's say they're in a unhealthy state in terms of what they're eating, and then we can have like a conversation about like what they should, what are some things that they should be thinking about changing to. What does an average household in the UAE eat that is not necessarily unhealthy, but just like give us like a sense of like what are they actually on the plate at home?
All right. Dietary guidelines. You know how you should have 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 servings fruit and vegetables. We're supposed to have 30% of your calories coming from fat, minimum 45% coming from carbs. The typical dietary guidelines, the daily dietary like allowance for us, what we should have, it's not being met. So fruits and vegetable intake is less than what it should be. You have meat consumption is higher than it should be. Chicken consumption is higher than it should be. When you look at junk food, it's more of like, I would say, at least twice a week. So families have junk food at 2 to 3 times a week. Again, it's different. Some of this data is back from like 2015, 2000. So we need to look at data right now, but that is not available as we speak. But definitely, we're not, households here are not reaching the optimum dietary intake per day when it comes to, again, fruits, vegetables, carbs, fats. It's more of junk food, and then a little of fruits and vegetables, and high meat consumption, which then translates into different diet related, I would say, complications. Not complications, but with time, it will translate into diet related diseases.
Yeah,
but I don't want to scare anyone. I'm just speaking the facts right now. As based on what I know, this is what I know, is that it's not being met. And there's an urgent need to actually do something to meet those needs, to meet those nutritional needs.
Yeah, what are the effects of that diet over a person's lifetime if they just keep doing junk food? Also, like, what is the definition of junk food in your mind first? Because like that's like, even like the terms of like what does happiness mean, like changes based on like who you ask. So I'm curious, like, what is junk food?
Yeah.
And then at the same time, what are some of the effects? And it doesn't have to be like a scary thing, but like I think helps people know like, oh, those are some bad things. And we can talk about like what happens when we go to the good stuff. So what is junk food? And then what type of health effects would people see? I imagine like just low energy, like you wouldn't be as productive. Just on, it doesn't sound like you'd be as productive, but that's my guess.
Definitely, you're going to be less productive. But what I mean by junk food is hamburgers, pre-fried food products. By the way, not necessarily, I wouldn't even necessarily say, oh, you're going to eat at this fast food chain or that fast food chain, even though this is what's happening. But also you have those pre-fried products that are sold in the supermarket, right? And they're so easily accessible, and they have a great promotional deal. There's that time I went to the grocery store. Great promotional deals on those pre-fried food products, from fries to nuggets to mozzarella sticks to you name it, you'll find it. Chicken popcorn. So imagine you're eating at a fast food chain every maybe 2 to 3 times a week, but you're also having, for example, those pre-fried products. With time, you're getting more calories, so higher energy, higher fat and saturated fat intake. I would say less protein, of course. And even those sauces, the sauces are what adds those calories and extra fat. So with time, if you're having that 2-3 times per week, you're going to exceed your caloric intake, and you're going to start gaining, I would say you're going to start gaining fat with time. And it also depends on someone's genetic predisposition. It depends on someone's family, like their history, their medical history, but it translates into, we can say, hypertension or cholesterol with time, or heart problems, sometimes liver problems. When you gain weight through a stage of obesity, that is just, it's going to be a life or death, literally. That's why maintaining nutrition is so important. And so with time, you're eating all of those fats and saturated fats, and we are right now living in a time where everything is easy for you to get just from sitting at your home. So you're so sedentary, you're not really active, you're eating in excess, fat buildup, again, heart problems, hypertension, cholesterol, high blood pressure, low blood pressure. It's an amalgamation of all of those different diet-related diseases. So you will get, you do know that non-communicable diseases, when it comes to like obesity and all of those diet-related diseases, they are responsible for a lot of death. They're one of the key pillars for death. Nutrition-related diseases, they are one of the key pillars for death. And so it's just something that really bothers me, is that not many people talk about it. And then even if you want to talk about it, even if you want to raise that to a company, to whatever, there's still gonna be that business aspect of it. I don't wanna do that if it's gonna affect my business negatively, but it's affecting the whole population negatively. And it's I don't even know how to come about that. This is
Yeah.
something that I still circle back to every single day. There has to be business benefits, but there has to be community level benefits. How do you do that?
Hmm. Yeah, it's a hard problem. The because if you don't set the right disincentives and incentives, the people who just don't give a crap and are just gonna, put like sawdust burgers out there for people to eat are gonna make the money because
Mhm.
I mean it's cost effective. There has to be like a marketing, there has to be some like cost benefit, breakdown to like make people not want to do it. Um, that I see like the regulation really has to be the thing that comes in because if it's just like do whatever you want, I mean it's hard to do the best when your your neighbor's gonna maybe not be doing the best thing and how you sell it's gonna be cheaper because like you're not doing the same regulations and stuff on it. Are there what are some this is like kind of one of my temple questions I wanted to ask, but I think it like segues nicely in what we're talking about, just like in terms of what's not there. What are some of the nutritional gaps that you've identified? I mean, we're talking about them so far, and just as a quick aside, like this is a bit of a jarble, but not only do you get death from what you just were talking about, but dementia, your rate, like 25% of people who get dementia and neurodegenerative diseases, it's a lifestyle factor. So it's, I mean, it's just, like every way you look at it, like this type of stuff, it really will change your quality of life. So, what are some of the nutritional gaps? We've already talked about some of them, but what are the ones that you're working on, and what are the ones that you think people should move to? And like, I'm definitely one of those people that I'm pretty dumb in terms of what I eat. So, anything you recommend, I'm gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna research that some more, and then maybe get some of that on my plate. So, what are your nutritional gaps that you've seen in the UAE?
Nutritional gaps, apart from what we were talking about.
Yeah.
So let's say when it comes down to the micronutrients, I would say vitamin D, vitamin A,
Mm,
vitamin, um, I'll say vitamin C, iron, calcium, magnesium.
mm.
But yeah, those are like top of my mind right now.
Wow,
I mean, these are
those are
like when you
key.
go to micronutrient deficiencies, yeah. And overall, it's not nutrition secure.
Yeah.
The food is not nutrition secure because not every single person is gonna sit and think of what does this give me? Is what I'm eating giving me all my micronutrients, all my calories, all my proteins, fats, healthy fats? No one, not that many people are conscious of every single thing they eat. And no one should be that,
Hmm.
I would say, I don't want to say insane. I just want to say that picky to the point where they calculate everything. That's not good, no. But you should be more conscious of what you eat. And because not everyone's conscious, uh, another nutrition gap, again, is basically, I would say that education is also can be counted as a nutrition gap, nutrition education.
Mm.
Because then you can have a more conscious community of what they're eating and a uh, more healthy community because they're more conscious, right? Yeah.
In ancient times and in like Rome, for instance, they used to have like a grain dole where like everyone would just get like, hey, if you want like I don't know what the actual ratio was. I think maybe like a loaf of bread. And I'm wondering like what do you think about the idea of like everyone getting like a standard meal? I don't know if that'd work in the UAE or not because I don't know how many people are there, but they had like a standard healthy option that was like delivered to everybody, like kind of like universal basic income, but universal basic nutrition.
Oh, that can't happen. Everyone has a different
Mm,
food. Everyone has different food tastes, food preferences, food behaviors. But like a typical healthy meal is just gonna follow my plate.
mm,
That's the typical healthy meal. You have your dairy, you have your vegetables, your fruit, your protein, your carbs, your water. That's it. And your fruit. This is the typical healthy meal. Literally, what my plate has.
yeah.
It's not gonna be something outside of this box where I'm gonna tell you some. No, like a one universal meal, my plate. But everyone has preferences. You can't give someone, can't give the whole universe one universal meal, or like the whole country a universal meal. Not many people will even like that.
Yeah. Well, I think you can customize it. Like, maybe you see a doctor and they say, here are your nutritional requirements. Then you can like pick from a meal, kind of like how you do on an
Yeah.
airline. Because I was watching an airline that makes like 50,000 meals a day in Southeast Asia. It's like, wow, that's crazy. Yeah. It's intense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's bigger when you're talking about like, I don't know, a couple million people in the UAE. It's
Yeah,
like 10.
it is. It is. But the food subscription services, meal plans,
Yeah.
it really works here. There are
Hmm.
so many meal subscription forms. There's also a subscription plan. You get the ingredients, how they are, and then like a recipe, and you cook
Yeah.
it at home. And basically, you can have the portion however you want it. If there's still left, you can like store it. I love that. It's calculated based on this person's needs, and you can cook it yourself, or you can get a meal plan just the way that it is. But it's something that really, really has worked here. Meal plan subscription services are taking it by storm. And a lot of people, because everyone is like working, they don't have time to cook food, they go for that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of something you can say of like this universal meal. Something similar. It's just that it's tailored for you.
It makes sense.
And you get it.
Yeah. What are some of the hurdles or challenges that you've been facing so far as you're trying to advocate, get people educated, and with the policy and aspects as well? What are some of the things, like the roadblocks you've been seeing?
When it comes to plant-based, or just in general?
Plant-based, healthy diet. Yeah, those two.
Okay, so when it comes to when it comes to healthy diets, a lot of consumers are on board. A lot of them post-COVID era, a lot of people have been like more health conscious, health and wellness conscious, becoming more active, taking care of themselves. So when it comes to healthy diets, there is a lot of acceptance to healthy diets, shifting their food behavior. But again, consumers say they're gonna shift and then they do something completely different. But one of I would say the roadblocks is you can't just have the consumer shift on their own. You need to shift the entire environment around the consumer, right? So when you say healthy diet, it's not just a consumer. It's basically, imagine you're walking on the road, you're driving down the road, and there's a huge marketing sign. What is it for? A nice, yummy burger. I mean, that, you want to shift to a healthy diet, remove that and put something that is super healthy on that big, huge board. And do that on every single board. Because awareness is not just someone's reading. No, because sometimes you see things, you don't notice that you see them, but throughout time, they do influence your food choice. And then also you have the restaurants, you have, again, schools, you have corporate. What are they giving out in their cafeteria? Is it healthy? Is it not healthy? So I would say the roadblock is to get all of those different aspects on board to a healthy diet. And this is the major roadblock, basically, is to get to make a healthy menu, to make employees healthier. I mean, I'm pretty sure not every single company will have a super healthy cafeteria, right? So imagine shifting all of that, shifting all schools, mandating all of that to shift to healthy diets. And the roadblock is not us or someone else. It's not just the receiving side, it's the side that's also giving out those meals. Sometimes they refuse to shift because maybe it's going to negatively impact the organization, negatively impact their relationship with other organizations. You never know, So these are the roadblocks when it comes to healthy diet. Excuse me. When it comes to plant-based, there's a long, long way to go. But whenever it gets that backing, that very strong backing that's pushing it up on the agenda, plant-based in the region is gonna skyrocket. But definitely the biggest roadblock here is that consumers are not that aware of plant-based, and they're not that aware of how food negatively impacts our climate and our environment, and how basically food has a huge role in climate change. For consumers, it's more of like, how is this gonna benefit my health? To sell them a plant-based, you have to talk to them about health and health benefits. But imagine going up to a consumer who is not that aware about climate change and telling them the meat that you're eating is giving out X GHG emissions, and you need to. They're gonna go like, "What? What are you talking about? I don't care about that. I'm gonna eat my meat. What is my reason? Why should I change for you? You know?"
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the biggest. It is the biggest roadblock, because once, imagine a whole country demands more plant-based, by default, supply and all of those companies are gonna start venturing into plant-based, making their plant-based, putting it out in retailers. So I think that is the biggest roadblock when it comes to plant-based. Definitely awareness on consumers' part, awareness on key stakeholders' part, increasing the education, because not everyone knows about meat and chicken and animal agriculture, the effects of animal agriculture on the environment. And so I feel like you need to educate consumers, they need to educate stakeholders and everyone, so that we can really push it on the agenda.
Mm-hmm. What how big of an impact for people who aren't aware? I'm aware of how I'm very aware of like the Europe and Southeast Asia and America in terms of like how climate change is going to affect it. I think it's kind of like confirmation statement. I think agriculture accounts for like 40% of stuff that's going on with climate change. It might be higher or lower. Please correct. But what will climate change do to the Middle East? Like, what will it look like over the next 100 years? Let's say we don't do anything, we just let it, do the worst things.
Oh my! The temperature will rise by 4 degrees. I think I saw that like a couple of days ago. If we don't do something in the Middle East, temperature will rise by 4 degrees. And it is in the GCC in August, you cannot breathe outside. It is so hot. It progressively got hotter. Again, because I was born and raised here, I can remember back in the day, summer was not that hot. It was hot. We're in a desert, yes. But it was not to the point where I can't breathe. Now it's in August, in summer, it's to a point where I cannot breathe. I need to run from one place to another just so I can get into air conditioning to breathe. And again, when I look at winter, for example, winter was not that cold in GCC. Now it's actually cold. Every single year it gets colder and the summer gets hotter. And again, there's no arable land. Okay, so we're in a dry land. Imagine with 4 degrees hotter than what it actually is. How much drier can it be? How will you produce anything? What will the people even feel? Imagine, this is just such a big change, 4 degrees. It will have negative implications on every aspect of life. I mean, even just, let me just tell you, this is something, I don't think it's really related, but in summer, from how hot it is in the region, the air conditioning sometimes stops working. It gets jammed because of how hot it is. So when you say how will make climate change negatively impact, I mean, there's water, it will impact water, it will impact dryness, it will impact production, it will impact life in general, it will impact life in general.
Are the so I know Israel, they built a bunch of desalination plants. They went from having water scarcity to like water surplus. Is there any plans for like building desalination plants in the UAE so they don't have that type of problem? So they can have like, I guess, more like water cooled, or just like having access to potable water?
I believe so. I am not really covered on that side of it.
Yeah.
But I believe so.
Yeah.
I'm not really 100% sure. Again,
Yeah,
I don't want to say something and it's not right, but I
no
believe
worries.
that I've seen it somewhere.
Yeah, the America's weird. California has all these droughts, but then it's like you have this ocean. I think at one point in time they tried building desalination plants, but then they stopped, and then we had a bigger drought. I would love to see just a series of desalination plants, maybe tied up to
Hmm.
some like renewable energy, and just like pipe that stuff. I wrote a thesis thing on it.
Yeah.
And my teacher made fun of me for building a desalination pipeline for
What?
just to, he thought it was unfeasible. I was like, I don't know how's feasible. Like every year we spend billions of dollars like fixing the wildfires. Like I don't know, spend like 10% of that on desalination plants. But yeah, that's American education system. They're mean. But
Thesis for your master's or
no,
was it
no, it's just
bachelor's?
for bachelor's. Yeah, I didn't get my master's.
Bachelor's. Okay. Wait, what did
Yeah.
what did you study? Because you're saying desalination, that was your thesis.
Oh, I studied the brain, the neuroscience, but then you take other courses with it. So I was like in
Oh,
taking some
interesting.
geoscience courses, and they were like, "What would you do about
Mm.
the California drought?" And I literally drew a map, and I had like it was like on a final, so you didn't have anything that you could bring with you. I drew a map, and I had like 5 pages explaining like exactly what I would do and like how I'd find the
Oh, wow.
topography and stuff. I'd also bring back beavers. Beavers are amazing animals, and they help everything, the watershed, all that stuff. I don't think the Middle East has beavers. You guys don't really have rivers. It's more like desert and then the ocean, right? And then the Gulf of
Yeah, we don't have. I mean, in GCC, we don't have rivers. I don't believe we have rivers here. But in like the Levant, we do have rivers. Like in Lebanon, I
mm,
think in Jordan. Yeah, we do have rivers. I mean, I know from my country, I have seen rivers by my eyes. So definitely we have. But JCC, more of desert area, not them, no rivers, no. I would say like an island. You have an island.
are they the
Yeah.
artificial ones? The ones that was that the Dubai that was making the artificial islands? It looks like a bunch of like
The
flowers or
palm, you
trees.
mean?
Oh,
That's the
I don't know.
palm.
Yeah, the palm. Yeah, it looks like
Yeah,
palm trees.
the palm. Yeah, yeah. No, there's some islands where it doesn't look like the palm. Is it not natural? I haven't looked into that. But definitely I know that some of the ponds like they were, placed in certain areas.
Yeah. What So I'm not from, as I've said, several times. I don't know their area. What are some places you recommend people check out? Like, are there like beautiful areas either for food? Are there like cool food areas to check out? And then just places that you would hang out and like recommend. Because I have to go to the
In
Middle
Dubai?
East. I would give like the whole middle. I keep saying Middle East in my head, and then saying Midwest outside. So like, I'm having a mess up here. The ME, I'm gonna call it the me, the Middle East, the whole region.
um oh, Lebanon is amazing. I
Hmm.
mean, there's so much nature in Lebanon and the food is very good there. I mean, the current situation is not the best, but you can still tour around and it's just amazing. There's oceans, rivers, you can go hiking, the food is just amazing there. Definitely I would recommend going to Lebanon to represent my country.
Hmm.
I think Dubai is amazing. I think everyone should come to Dubai. Dubai is so nice. I love
Hmm.
Dubai. And there's so many different activities that you can do. Again, it's not like you're gonna hike here in Dubai, but there are definitely in other Emirates you can go hiking. There's more nature. Dubai is more of like I would say Dubai is like the New York of the Middle East. So you can kind of get the gist of it. But it's very nice. It's something that's worth coming and touring, seeing all of the different developments, the technology, the futuristic edge that Dubai has. It's very, very nice. Apart from that, I think Jordan is
Hmm.
also very beautiful. Um, Trying to think. I think these will be my top three
Yeah.
recommendations. Morocco. Morocco is also
Morocco.
very nice. Yeah, Morocco is very nice. Go to Marrakesh. Um, this will be my recommendations. Where do you recommend in the States?
I like Boston. It's a very walkable city. So if you've ever been to Europe, it's very like you can walk from one end to the other, which is kind of nice.
Okay.
I don't like Chicago for reasons. Mainly like public transport. I'm a big fan of public transport, and I don't think Chicago has the best public transport. Boston has better public transport, but still not that great. Um, I like Madison. Wisconsin's pretty cool. There's a lot of really cool places. Like if you like New England, if you go to like Michigan and Wisconsin, it's kind of like New England, but without all the people, which is kind of cool. Austin's all right. I think it's like an okay place. It's a little hot, but I think I have no grounds to say that. So I can't breathe if it's outside. It's so hot. Those are cool places. We also like America's just really good for their parks, like the nature of it. There are so many parks that you can just literally get lost into. There's a trail that starts basically in Florida and goes all the way up to New England, and it's called the Appalachian Trail. It takes like 4 months to hike. I know so many people want to do it. I actually want to do it one day. So there's a lot of really cool trails, a lot of nature. There's the place in Illinois named Starved Rock, which is has meaning behind its name. If you were coming to America, outside of just like visiting cities and stuff, I would actually recommend like just going towards a park and then going to the nearest local town and then going to the nearest pub and then asking what is their number one item that they sell and have it. It's and just sit there. Yeah, it's nice.
Because I've never actually been to the States.
No, it's all right. I think what does the outside world think of America? Like, are we like how do you view us?
I mean, personally, my personal view, I just feel like every single type of innovation comes straight out of America. And I'm just like, wow. I'm always so impressed by the technology and the ideas. All of those innovative ideas, they come straight out of America. This is from my own perspective. And I really get so impressed by that. Whenever I meet someone from America or someone who used to work in America, I can just feel how well-rounded this person is in their field. And it's really amazing to me. Apart from that, the country, I feel like I don't have that many thoughts about it. I mean, it's just, I would love to go to some states, just to like tour around, see what life is like there. I'd like to have, for example, I think it might be a bit typical, but I'd love to have the New York pizza, like the big, huge, giant slice of pizza. I'd like to go to Boston is somewhere I'd like to go to. Again, I don't have a certain kind of thought about it. I just feel like every single technology and innovation just comes out of there, and then the rest of the world just follows.
Yeah. One thing that I think most people don't see is that like Americans are pretty friendly. Like in the Midwest, like people will say hi to you when you're walking around. I don't know if they do that in the Middle East. Jesus. Even in like Boston, people were telling me, "Oh, everyone in Boston's gonna be mean to you, Lowell." And it's like I stepped off the train and I was like, I don't know where I'm going, so I asked a random guy, "Hey, do you know where this place is?" And he worked at the train station, but he just got off. He's like, "Yeah, okay, here you go." He literally left the train station to like make sure I took the route, the correct route. And I was like, "Oh, thanks." And he was just like, "Yeah, just that street right there." And then he went off in the entire different direction. It's like I think there's really nice people all over. But at the same time, there's jerks everywhere that ruin things, that have access to the internet, so make things kind of sound sad. America's pretty cool. Like we have our problems, but yeah, I guess we're good for innovation. That's kind of nice. The Midwest, I mean, Middle East. We're like so many different things. But it's so hard for me. I mean, we started with like me not being able to say your last name, so like my mouth doesn't work very well.
Now it's Midwest, Middle East.
The Middle East, I think my impression of it's like there's a desert there. World War I was not great for it, in terms of like the dividing lines for things that the Great Britain, and then like the Lawrence of Arabia guy did. They like drew stuff on maps that had like no correlation, like cultural boundaries. Lots of innovation. I think Dubai is like Singapore in my mind in terms of like in a couple of generations they went from not really that big to like really like cutting edge, and now they're really expanding into other industries, which I really like.
It's crazy.
I'm like mildly concerned about like, so in America, like for the most part, you can like walk from point A to point B and you'll be fine. Like you could probably like you could literally probably like ride a bike from like California to New York and you'd probably be fine. Like there are crazy people out there, but they probably would just be like, "What are you doing?" I don't know if I could do that. I hear like there's like people in the Midwest, Middle East, who, like there's like stuff going on. Like maybe they wouldn't like an American. I don't know. I don't want to like go there and like get like beat up, but I don't know like how safe it is. You know what I mean?
No,
It's safe?
in the middle, I mean, in the GCC, super safe, super,
Hmm.
super safe. Um, in the further MENA region, I would not say it's so safe for you to take a bike from point A to the opposite side of the country, point B. No. But here you can do that easily. You can just
Hmm.
walk around from point A to point B. You don't even need to take a bicycle. Like, you're safe.
Hmm.
They're very welcoming. Open arms. It's great here. Great here.
Yeah. What is a Lebanesian? Is it Lebanese? Did I say the name right? Lebanesian
Lebanese.
dish they'd recommend. You said food earlier. And I wrote down like I want to know something to eat.
Uh,
Now I'm hungry.
Lebanese dish. So you should definitely have tabbouleh. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I don't even know if I spelt it right in my notes. I'm gonna. What's bully?
Tabbouleh. You should have manaish.
I don't know what that
You're
is
like,
either.
okay.
I'll eat it. If I'm in
Oh,
the Midwest,
oh,
Middle East, I will literally eat whatever you say. Like if I'm like coming out there, I will grab everyone else I know in the Middle East, and you guys can just like pick what I eat. I'm pretty open. I'll eat anything I'm like an omnivore.
you should have manaish, tabbouleh, fattoush. There's hummus, batinjان. All of those, so, so good. So good. I mean, I can tell you like more on if you want to have meat. Um,
I'll eat anything. It's all good as long as you
the,
like it. I'll check it out.
yeah, there's I mean, again, there's like kebab,
Yeah.
kibbe, all of those. Yeah, but the number one thing that when someone says Lebanon, you should be like tabbouleh fattoush, and you have manaish. And there's this dessert. Not sure if it's purely Lebanese. I think it's just mixture of the whole Middle East. They have it. It's called knafe.
What is
Knafe.
it? Kanafi?
It's
What is it?
yeah. It's a dessert. So it's like cheese. It's like a huge chunk of cheese, and then they
Hmm.
put I'm not sure if it's a type of like I want to say carbohydrate. I'm not sure what it is on top of it, and then they drizzle it with like sugar syrup, but it just tastes so good. That dessert tastes so good. That dessert is
Sweet.
a dessert you need to try, and also no, I would recommend that dessert.
Yeah. Desserts in the Midwest. I mean, we're like the dairy and cheese capital of the world. So, if you like cheese, you'll be good here. There's like some of the oldest cheeseries out here. Dessert wise, we just have like ice cream. We're boring. Just, that's probably that and pecan pie. Pecan pie is pretty delicious out here. Like the
Oh
Midwest is
yeah,
very big on like apple pie and pecan pie.
okay.
It's
Oh
very
yeah, we
American.
have a lot of like pancakes, pecan
Mm,
pie, apple pie, cheesecake. So
yeah,
we have so many things available here. My bad, sorry.
you're all good. It barely comes through, and I just worry about your well being. So as long as you're okay, the what are
Actually,
some? Pardon?
yeah, go ahead, go ahead. No, it's fine, it's fine.
What are some books you'd recommend people check out? It could be nonfiction, fiction. It doesn't have to be related to climate change or food, but it can be at the same time. Just things that you've read that you enjoy that you wouldn't mind other people checking out.
Oh, okay. So most of the books I read are philosophical because
Sure.
I love philosophy. So there's a book by Jiddu Krishnamurti. It's called Freedom from the Unknown, and he also has one called Freedom from the Known. He also has a book on love and loneliness. There's also uh, I would say Jordan B. Peterson. His books, let me remember the
It's
name.
like 12
Uh,
rules, right? 12
12
rules.
rules for life, and then 12 other rules for life. And then there is a book called Nausea by Jean-Paul Sartre.
Hmm. So we'll have to check those out. I only know Peterson, so I now have 2 new authors to read. After this week, there's literally gonna be a bookshelf behind me because I was like, I talk about books so much, and I literally have like 3 bookshelves over there. So I'm gonna move them over here so people can there's a book you can recommend.
Yeah.
What are you currently working to learn? Like it doesn't have to be work related, but just like the title of the show is Learn with Lowell, so I'm always curious, like what are people actively trying to learn more about? Something. That's
I would say I'm trying to learn more about different skills needed in sustainability, in a sustainability profession. Not just one aspect of sustainability that is animal agriculture or something. I want to learn like different skills needed to excel in that. Apart from that, I would say how to position oneself, how to become and position yourself as a thought leader, how to lead a team, how to lead, again, just doing all those small, again, baby steps until you reach that big goal of yours. Is something I'm trying to learn. Apart from that, I think this is really like what comes to my mind right now and what I'm trying to learn. What about you?
I'm teaching myself machine learning. That's pretty fun. That's about it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
That's very nice.
It's really, it's like simple but complicated and it's fun. I don't have any it's like it's like a completely new field in terms of learning. So when I go into it, like it's like, wow, there's so many things I'm ignorant of. It's kind of exciting because sometimes when you're looking at something that's similar to something you've done, you have like some type of simile to it, which makes it easier. But then at the same time, if it's like a full new field, I think it's very exciting to like learn everything about it. Yeah, machine learning is my thing. I have some ideas for where I can apply it and stuff like that, but that's where I'm having my fun. What are some of the specific skills and sustainability that you're trying to learn? Like, are there specific, maybe someone listening, or I could give maybe some suggestions. I don't know.
You can give me some suggestions. I mean, right now I'm just having, you can give me suggestions. I don't have something that's set in stone.
Oh, okay. So it's not like it's not like knowing how to make, like the skill of knowing how to like negotiate a big contract, or the skill of like making a plant burger. I don't know.
There's definitely, I would say climate negotiation skills. And reporting, like, I don't want to say ESG reporting. I want to say more of like GRI reporting.
What's
but
GRI
yeah, definitely like
ESG. ESG versus GRI. What is that?
ESG is environmental social governance, and it's basically the companies report ESG, so that it's typically used by investors to see where they should invest in which company. GRI is the Global Reporting Initiative, and it's basically, that one has a whole framework, all standards on what each company should follow. It's standardized. There's a framework. ESG, each company can choose the way they want to report.
Okay, that makes sense.
So for me, I would love to learn more about developing sustainability reports for a company. How do I report the company's performance, and so on and so forth, and also climate negotiation.
Yeah. So it's like, how do you listen to the team of a company to know what their needs are, and then translate it into climate sustainability, and then translate it back into a plan that they can use, and then have weights and measures to know how they're performing and how they're, like, for their own benefit and for your benefit, so that you can help coach them further.
Definitely, yeah. And also, like, reports, like sustainability reports, I think every multinational company does them now. It's like part of their strategy, I would say. Every company is coming out with sustainability reports.
Yeah. I'd call one of them up then. That'd be my suggestion. I'd call someone up at one of those companies and learn how they do them.
That could be. That's
Yeah,
actually
that's what I
a
do.
great idea.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
just call them. I mean,
Yeah.
especially if you're, with your interest in your background. Like, I think half the battle is like, did you do your research? Like when you talk to someone, like to a great extent, you're just proving that you're not going to waste their time. And then the second half is you're going to use their time valuably. So I mean, there's multiple variables to it than that. But I think if you find one that you're really like, wow, that's really cool, and maybe it's in the UAE, and they have a mission that's really exciting, and there's one person who's really in it. I mean, sending them a message or something like that, like you'd be surprised. People say yes. I mean, I have a podcast with like 200 plus people, and I didn't know anyone at the beginning. I was just like an idiot in the Midwest, and now I'm like a slightly bigger idiot in the Midwest. Like I think it's easy. It's just like gotta pick the person. I think you can do it.
Gotta take that initial step of
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, and then what advice would you give to someone who wants to get into what you're doing?
What advice I would give? I would give them stay on top of all the updates, know what's happening in the industry, try to understand consumers from your own point of view, not typically consumer market insights. I don't really trust all of those insights. So yeah, the best advice is stay up to date on what is happening. Every day, assign at least 30 minutes, check what is happening in the industry, stay up to date on what's happening. That's like the most crucial thing I would say. And always stay up to date on research. Research helps a lot. And also, I would say, continuously educate yourself, take mini courses, try to increase your skill set, in whatever area you want. And let's say if it's food sustainability, get a certificate from this university, or not necessarily a university, whatever you find that you think is good enough, go for it. Continuously educate yourself. Education doesn't stop. And the world is changing at a very fast pace. What you know today might not apply in like a week.
Yeah. Where are some places that you recommend people follow along on to learn more? Like where do you go to stay up to date essentially for those 30 minutes? Like what does that look like?
Okay, so I love the Good Food Institute. Okay, that's more on precision fermentation, everything, policy, science, everything is on there. There's Green Queen Media. Absolutely love that website. Everything they put on there is just great. They put for you all of what is happening every single day. Everything that's new is updated. In terms of courses, I would say EIT Food is amazing for courses. And then when it comes to certifications, it really depends on if someone wants to get it from a university. But I know that University of completely forgot. I think it's with MIT. They have a certification. Yeah, and there was another university, Harvard or Stanford, either one of those. They have sustainable food systems certification, and I think it's great. I think those are great.
Yeah, I'm gonna check them out as well. I love to learn. And then where can people go to stay up to date with you in your work? Are you like, do you have intentions for like a newsletter, or like, are you on like Twitter and you kind of talk about your stuff? Because like I'd follow along, I'd subscribe.
And that's actually not a bad idea. For now, I'm just active on LinkedIn. This is where I post what is happening, most recent developments, whether it's in the Middle East or if it's global. I'm on LinkedIn. Maybe I'll start a newsletter. Maybe I'll start a website. I still don't know. I don't have any concrete strategy, but for now, LinkedIn. And then whenever that happens, I'll obviously post about it on my LinkedIn or link it to my LinkedIn. But for now, it's just that my profile.
Sweet. I'll make sure it's in the show notes so people can check it out. And then a fun question: what does the necklace say? The gold, is it Sarah in Sanskrit or something?
It's Sarah in Arabic.
Oh, that's cool. It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Like the writing of the language. English is kind of, I don't know. I've looked at it a lot, so it's kind of boring to me. Sanskrit, Arabic looks really cool when you look at it, like when it's
Yeah, there
written.
are different fonts. Not, I don't
Oh,
want to
okay.
say fonts, but there are different styles of writing. I chose
Mhm.
a specific one. Yeah,
Does the style have meaning, or is it just like you liked it, the aesthetics?
I just like the style. I just like how it
Okay.
looks. I just feel like this is one of the most used. Even it's one of the most. It's like it's like I'm typing in Times New Roman on like my
Okay.
Microsoft Word, but in Arabic, this is used mostly like I would say in poetry, in
Mm,
all of those cultural kind of traditional ways of writing. Yeah.
sweet. All right. Well then, normally I just end the call, but since I'm trying something new today, I just want to thank everyone for coming out today and checking out Sarah Mary. It's so bad. Mary. See, that's how bad it is. Like this has been terrible. I am so bad at names. Um, thanks for coming out. Thanks for being on the show. Thanks for sharing your passion for these topics. I hope everyone, if you had a thought on what was talked about today, leave it in a comment, message her on LinkedIn, and really just like go out there and learn something new. I hope you learned something new today.
Please do message me if you ever have any questions. And thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It was amazing. I loved it. I enjoyed it. And I hope other people enjoy it as well listening to this podcast. I hope they learn something new about the GCC and Middle East region.